Man, it's been a while since I've talked about Jak and Daxter. After the release of Daxter, I was hoping that the series would have continued and advanced to the PlayStation 3. Well, it turns out my wish was half granted. In 2009, developer High Impact Games, formed by former members of Insomniac and Naughty Dog, released Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier for the PSP and PlayStation 2. Being the Jak fan that I am, I had to get a copy. So the question is, was the 3-year wait worth it? Or is it a true stinker? Only one way to find out. Let's take a look.
Yeah!
The world is running short of eco! So Jak, Daxter, and Kira travel to the brink to find more eco. However, they get ambushed by sky pirates, led by Phoenix. The plane gets damaged and they crash land at the brink. Kira manages to fix the plane and they see the pirates attacking the ACS Behemoth. After taking down the pirates, they are met with Skyheat, the Duke of Europa, who gives them the Eco Seeker, which they used to find the Eco Core, but were unsuccessful. Phoenix comes in and steals the Seeker. Kira gets captured in the process. Jak chases Phoenix only to find out that
It's a trap!
They crash land again, and after the repairs, they take down the Phantom Blade's defenses and find Kira, who forces Jak and Phoenix to make a truce after a fight results in the loss of the Eco Seeker. Now they must find it and find the Eco Core. At certain points in the story, Daxter gets into contact with Dark Eco again, and it transforms him into Dark Daxter, which is very weird because of the fact that the Dark Eco was the thing that transformed Daxter into an Ottsel in the Precursor Legacy. But I remember what Daxter said in Jak 3.
Don't touch it, Daxter. Who knows what more Dark Ego would do to you?
Look at me, Jak! I'm short, I'm hairy, and I itch in strange places. I couldn't do worse.
But one can argue about the plot twists that happen later in Jak 3, which is understandable. The story itself isn't as strong telling compared to Jak 2 and Jak 3. It seemed that it went into the style of simple storytelling like Precursor Legacy, which isn't a horrible thing as I enjoy games that have a simple story. But the whole force of eco can get redundant and everyone says eco all the damn time.
Ever since we began looking for the Eco Core,
You can find some green eco?
Please allow us to relieve you of your eco.
Nobody has eco anymore.
Fine, Eco. Save the world. I wanna go home.
However, I do like the fact that the story has a plot twist, which is something the Jak series does well in terms of storytelling. But it isn't as strong, but I like it. To conclude, the story isn't very strong like the sequels, but it's still a decent one.
We too are looking for a new eco source to help save the world.
noble pursuit. Perhaps we can be of some assistance.
We need to help that airship, Jak.
Buckle up.
Wail on these chumps!
Lost Frontiers gameplay is divided up in 3 parts: the platforming with Jak, plane flying, and Dark Daxter. Jak's gameplay retains the same elements that made the series so recognizable. It has the same mission structure from the Jak sequels, where Jak and Daxter go to a certain area to complete a mission to advance the story. The gunplay from the sequels returned too, but instead of the morph gun, Jak wields a gun staff that almost has the same gun mods. The Peacemaker, however, is replaced by a grenade-launching weapon called the Lobber, and upgrades for the mods can be found in chests along with different outfits. The game doesn't allow Jak to transform into Dark Jak or Light Jak because of the unstable eco, but the game does bring back the colored eco powers from the Precursor Legacy. When Jak comes across a Precursor statue, it will grant Jak with a special power like creating platforms with green crystals, to firing a red ball of energy that explodes after shooting it, to even slowing down time.
Chaos Control!
Again, couldn't resist. Jak can still collect Dark Eco from fallen enemies, but this time they serve as tokens, meaning that Jak can meet up with Kira in one of the few small hubs where she can use her Sage powers to trade Dark Eco for more Colored Eco abilities, since Kira is practicing to become a Sage. Precursor orbs are found in hidden places, but they're a lot easier to find. But some require a little bit of thinking. The controls on Jak are pretty good. They're responsive, tight, and very functional. Recipe for good gameplay.
That's it! It's go time, baby! Oops. He did it.
The second thing that's added to the gameplay is plane flying. Jak and Daxter will need to travel by plane to get to locations. When you begin the game, you'll have guns to fire with the right shoulder button, and lock on missiles that can be used by pressing the left shoulder button. Throughout the game, Jak will get new planes that he can use to travel, which will have strengths and weaknesses. In addition to flying different planes, they can be equipped with different mods and weapons which can be purchased by scrap metal from fallen enemy planes. Another way to get mods and weapons is by hijack enemies by using Daxter. By pressing and holding the circle button, a special lock-on will home in on an enemy plane. Once it's locked on, Daxter will be launched onto that plane. To successfully steal the part, you must complete a set of QTE button presses. Successful, Daxter can destroy an enemy vessel from within. Controlling the plane is simple, so it makes it easy to get used to the controls. You could boost by holding down the X button, flip the plane by pressing up on the D-pad, turn 180 by pressing down, and pressing right and left will let you
Do a barrel roll!
Even once you get used to them, they're really nice and smooth.
Just when you thought you'd been everywhere and seen everything. Ghost pirates.
Finally, there's Jak Daxter. His gameplay is much more linear than the Jak sections and the dogfighting. It goes from point A to point B, taking down enemies, and even has a little puzzle solving. Jak Daxter can fire dark eco bolts from his hands, use his strength to pound the ground to activate switches, and goes into a frenzy spin and turns into a tornado. Jak Daxter has elements of the Tasmanian Devil. Interesting. Jak Daxter has a dark eco gauge which limits him to how much dark eco he has when using frenzy. Once it runs out, he can't use frenzy. However, he can refill the gauge by collecting dark eco from fallen enemies and hitting crystals with the frenzy spin. Just like Jak in the planes, the Jak Daxter sections has pretty good controls, with the exception of the frenzy spin. Steering the frickin' thing is a major pain in the ass. It's so loose. No matter how hard I push the analog stick in a direction, he goes all over the place. The Jak sections also have issues. First, there's the eco shield and the controls. You have a limited time before the shield powers down. The issue is steering Jak. If you're not precise, he can go in the wrong direction. The camera can also be a problem. The angles can lead to problems such as the part where you have to use the shield and teleport powers. You have to be in the dead center to activate the teleport powers, and the shield lasts a few seconds, and if you're not fast enough, you'll die. The biggest problem though is the combat. It's very weak. It takes many punches and kicks to kill a single enemy. In the Precursor Legacy, a lurker can be killed with 1 or 2 punches or kicks. The guns aren't better either. They take a lot of ammo to kill an enemy as well, where in the Jak sequels, they take 1 to even 3 shots to kill a metalhead. The lobber though is pretty good, although it isn't as powerful as the Peacemaker. So you'll have to rely on making combos of eco powers, punches, kicks, and gunshots to kill enemies in the game. But my least favorite was the plane sections. My problem with them is simply, they're just boring at times. Several missions in the game does have action when plane flying, but other times, nothing really happens. When you explore the wasteland in Jak 3, you're always greeted with marauders shooting at you. So traveling was just as dangerous as what Damus has said. So if enemy planes fired at you, even when getting to the location in an overworld, then maybe they wouldn't be so boring. But with all that said, Lost Frontiers gameplay still manages to have a pretty good fun factor, despite some problems ranging from poor steering controls to just being boring.
I've never seen that much dark eco. Careful, Jak!
For PSP standards, Lost Frontier does bring in a nice mix of visuals. The game brings in some gritty settings like the abandoned European facility and the volcano, to bright places like the Brink. The hubs in the game are much smaller than Haven City in Jak 2 and Spargus in Jak 3, and they bring in a more linear approach to them as well. While the presentation works for the PSP, the same could not be said for the PlayStation 2 edition. The problem is the fact that the PlayStation 2 is more powerful than the PSP, meaning that the console is more than capable for bringing in stronger visuals for the game. Jak 2 and Jak 3 showed the system's capabilities and visuals, and they were released in 2003 and 2004. But I'm not saying that they are terrible, but it could have been better for the PS2 version. The cutscenes aren't bad. While some character models show some flaws, they still look pretty good. Even Daxter's fur shows great detail. But there is an inconsistency with Jak. At times, a cutscene shows him wearing an arm brace, but another cutscene shows that he's not wearing it. There's even a cutscene where Jak isn't wearing a strap with the metal ring! Aside from that, Lost Frontier has a very decent presentation that shows good capabilities for the PSP.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Ride the orange lightning, baby! Mayday! Mayday! Going down!
I'm just gonna say it. I love the soundtrack for this game. Composer James Dooley brought in an orchestral score to the game and really does a great job fitting to the situations of the missions. Some tunes give in a more lower and calmer tone. Then there are tunes that raises intensity in the missions and comes complete with an awesome choir. I like the fact that the sound effects of the game brings back the gun sounds from the sequels and the sounds of collecting precursor orbs from the Precursor Legacy. The rest of the sounds do their job pretty well. My favorites are the sounds from the Jak and Daxter missions. When it comes to voice acting, they are pretty typical. You still get Max Casella voicing Daxter, and it's still as great as ever.
Oh, I'm so scary because I float 2 feet off the ground, shoot pure evil out of my hands!
I gotta say, I like Jak and Daxter's voice in the game. It has some great wisecrack remarks, and doesn't sound entirely forced.
Welcome to the other end of the food chain. I broke this one. Still hungry? Time to find some more meat snacks.
Strangely enough, the original voice has Daxter talking like the Hulk.
Puny creatures. taste Daxter's eco boat when Daxter press button. Silly fishes. Daxter press button. Daxter crush you with frenzy dance.
Yeah, I prefer the one we got in the final product, thanks. Tara Strong returns to voice Kira, who's been voicing Kira since Jak 3. Tara Strong's done a great job in the past on making Kira a more balanced character. In this game, however, while it's not her best, but it isn't bad either.
No, Phoenix! If you care for me at all, you'll spare him. See, I need Jak. More than anything in the world.
But without a doubt, the biggest change is Jak, who is voiced by Josh Keaton instead of Mike Irwin. Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man voicing Jak!
Do villains find me this annoyingly talkative? Don't answer. Alright, ugly McEvilstein, you're about to get canceled!
Instead of a tough, aggressive, and a badass tone, Keaton goes back to being a bit more carefree and cheerful, which was a personality trait that was shown in the precursor Legacy.
Come on, Dax. Climb aboard and put your tray tables in the upchuck position.
At least he didn't say the exit's through the rear.
The night is still young.
But when he needs to get aggressive, he does a decent job.
Someone's been experimenting with Dark Eco. Whoever did this should be destroyed!
The rest of the cast does a good job. I love Phil Lamar as Skyheat. He has that friendly but strange behavior, like something is up in the beginning.
Very well. I will grant your request on one condition. That you prove to us you can protect the Seeker Orb at all costs. Agreed?
Agreed.
I also really like Phoenix's voice actor as well. Phoenix really brings in a more kind of like a huge rival to Jak. Not only that, but he has that suave and arrogant tone in the beginning, but when the game progresses and the plot twist gets involved, he seems a little bit more friendly.
So it's just you and me, Jak. A gentleman's game of fox and hound. But ask yourself, which is which?
Then we're in luck. I know of an old research station used by the Europans. It's abandoned now, but we did pick up some faint readings for light eco there long ago.
To conclude, I think the music is fantastic, the sounds are good and nostalgic, and the voice acting is pretty good.
Brink.
Honestly, Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier to me is not all that bad of a game, but I can understand why it isn't liked as much as the trilogy. But the game does have good elements with the platforming section, colored eco powers, and the fantastic soundtrack. The voice acting is not all that bad either, although Max Casella shines again as Daxter. But the game does have a weak story. The Dark Daxter parts, even though I didn't mind them, can get a bit boring. The plane sections do get boring at times, but I just can't hate this game, even as a big Jak fan. Even with its faults, Lost Frontier, I think, is a worthy addition to the series. If you own a PSP and a Jak fan, give this a try and judge for yourself.
I'm me again! Hate the precursors! Or curse them! Their stupid stuff keeps doing this to me!
Daxter! You okay, buddy?
I'm gonna give Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier a rating of... a silver medal. This is Chief Shadow 1750 saying, thank you very much for the 2,000 subscribers, and thank you very much for being extremely patient with me as I worked very hard on this review. Believe me, it was not an easy review to make. A lot of time and effort was made into this review, and I would love to hear what you guys think about the game and what you think I have to say about it. If you disagree with my opinions, that is perfectly fine. I just ask for you to respect my opinions. So once again, thank you very much for the 2,000 subscribers. I appreciate it a lot, and thank you very much for watching my content, and I will see you guys next time.
Chaos Blast!